Hi, I'm Micki.
I'm Kat.
We are Cat and Mouse Astrology. Welcome. We're here to talk about the full moon in Aries. Ooh,
Happy full moon.
happy full moon. This October is going to be an interesting and lovely month in many ways.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up the chart for us and let's take a look at it. Share my screen. And here we have that. Can you see that?
Yep.
Cool. So October 19th, 20th, depending on where you are on the planet. Today is the 20th, and we saw that full moon here in Kansas coming up at about 8 o'clock this morning at its peak beauty. This full moon reflects an end in a beginning, or perhaps a beginning in an end, because it's a full moon, and that represents the culmination of something. But this full moon is in Aries, and Aries represents the beginnings, the newness of things. So I thought that was kind of cool and interesting right off the bat.
Yeah.
The other things I noticed right off the bat, we've got some interesting configurations, and I thought, Kat, we might just start off and talk a little bit about just the archetypes.
Okay.
I know that we have some viewers that are pretty new to astrology, or they're used to only getting astrology interpretation, and they haven't really gotten into looking at, the aspects and the fullness of astrology. Some people just think of it as your sun sign.
Right.
Hey, I'm a Virgo, this is me. But if that were true, there'd only be 12 personalities on the planet.
Right.
Instead, every chart, including this chart, is a snapshot of a time and a place. And if you happen to be born in this time and place, then that's a snapshot of you when you're born. Right?
Right.
So the symbolism that really is pulling, me to go, wow, there's something going on here, is Mars and Pluto. I mean, those two big symbols that are having a discordant aspect in the sky right now. Again, still.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think of when you think of Mars?
Mars, I think of a fighting spirit and a warrior and assertion, sometimes conflict and aggression. With these archetypes, a lot of astrologers will talk about different, like the positive side and the shadow side, or different levels of the kind of manifestation of these archetypes, like a lower octave and a higher octave. Um, so that's where you get the difference between, like, are you assertive or are you aggressive?
Yeah, nice. Nicely put. I always think of martial arts, especially in the
Uh-huh.
sign of Libra, because Libra is kind of the artistic, the Venus ruled sign, and
Right.
Mars is in Libra. So Mars is uh, in the sign of Libra. It's impacted by Libra. So martial arts is something I think about there, but there's other configurations where that Mars energy might be used for justice, for example, the balancing of the Libran scales,
Right.
or, you know, uh, peace of some kind,
It might be
usually,
a Mars in Libra might be really good at protecting boundaries,
yeah,
to help people find a balance in their life. Boundaries are really important for balancing ourselves and our situations. And Mars in Libra could really help with that kind of protection. Whereas in a
exactly.
different sign, Mars might be more aggressive. In Libra, it might lean towards a more protective aspect.
That's really good. Yeah. Now, some might think that, well, Mars um, is not able to be its full self in Libra. it's being impacted in some way. And that's, again, not necessarily good or bad. It depends on that higher or lower octave of Mars and how it's being felt or used at any particular time.
Hmm. Well, and can we ever really be our full selves? Like, aren't we really more, we contain multitudes, right? Like Emerson said. And how could we possibly ever express every aspect of ourselves at every moment or at any moment?
Certainly not. Yeah. I mean, we can only more like a spectrum that we can reach certain parts of it at certain times. And this is interesting because that Mars is very close to the sun. So it's being illuminated by the sun. It's being illuminated by this full moon. There is some kind of an a spotlight being shown on Mars at this time. And what do you think about Pluto?
Yeah, and Pluto generally, I think of Pluto as the subterranean. Like Pluto in mythology as the lord of the underworld is different than Hades as the lord of the underworld. Pluto is about the wealth from the deep, like what's deep inside of us that that we can use as a resource. I like a lot of people think of Pluto as like this dark thing, and I think of it more of like there's gems in there if you can access them and bring them to the light.
Right. And there's a big factor of transformation having to
Yes,
do with Pluto.
yes,
Um, that that way that when we plant a seed in the dark, in the subterranean, and it grows into the light, all that stuff beneath the earth, beneath the surface, is hidden or um, maybe even in manure. But when it hits the light, then that seed is transformed. And now you have a little green shoot coming out or something. Something.
right. Pluto is very much about death and rebirth and the process of transformation. So that seed is a good analogy. Like the seed has to be destroyed in order for the plant to sprout, right?
Right.
The caterpillar has to go into the dark of the cocoon and dissolve itself before it can reform and turn into the butterfly.
Exactly. It sort of reminds me of the Phoenix story, starting from the ashes to soaring and everything in between. It's a major transformational metaphor.
Yes.
And
And
this seems
so
to be a really transformational time
true.
for people in general. I mean, not that we don't have Pluto everywhere all the time, but the other word that comes to mind is Pluto is in Capricorn. And we see it's at the 20, Pluto's the one with the square around it. And it's at 24 degrees of Capricorn. So it's been in Capricorn for a while because it's a slow moving planet. And Capricorn is the sign of, government. So the term I think of is plutocracy. And, the transformation of our government that we've been going through for, not just a year or two, but really several, maybe many years.
Right.
And now that uh, Pluto is in this hard, difficult configuration with Mars. So there's something going on here that we're going to be feeling. We're going to be feeling the rub of this, the difficulty in turning the corner of transformation. Maybe, I don't know if some people might be able to transform more easily and it will make others angry. There's the Mars. Mars can be anger. Or the transformation itself destroys something. And so when you go into something new, you're leaving something behind.
Right. And we should point out that this is happening both Mars, the Sun, Mercury. Libra is a cardinal sign, and Capricorn is a cardinal sign. And the cardinal signs, for those people who are newer to astrology, are about beginnings. And it's opposite Aries, which is also one of the cardinal signs. So we have this massive configuration, this full moon in the cardinal signs, um, which would lead me to think that this is like a big oomph towards starting something new. Like Pluto's at the end of Capricorn, so it's been there for a long time, and we've been in this like going into the dark, spending time in the dark, unearthing things, and we're coming towards the end of it. So maybe this is the get ready for what's coming that's new.
Yeah, I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I always sort of figure this the squares, and again, that red line signifies the square. The square between the moon and the sun square. The red line between the moon and the sun signifies an opposition, and the red line between Pluto and Mars represents a square, 90 degrees. And I think of the square as sort of like a wheel with this, like a wagon with square wheels. It's really hard for it to turn those wheels if they're square. It can, that horse could pull that wagon along with square wheels, but boy, it's hard to move. So there is something about this transformation, this change, the energy from Mars to make the change, the plutonic transformation is obviously not an easy turn of the wheel.
Right. But we do have this blue line, which is a trine to Jupiter. So like the way this chart lays out in that square wheel metaphor, it makes me feel like Jupiter is like a lever to add some kind of support to that square wheel to like pop it into moving forward.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah, we've got a really nice trine with Jupiter. And what do you think of when you think of Jupiter?
Jupiter is like the big benevolent planet. People talk about how it makes everything bigger and it brings blessings and bounty. Sometimes making things bigger can not be the greatest because it can like amplify what Mars might be angry about. Like if you're in an angry place with the Mars and you have this configuration with Jupiter, it could make it be more like an outburst because it makes things bigger. Um, but usually people talk about it as being a benevolent planet, and it just brings blessings.
Yeah, and I think in this case, depending on where it sits, how it aspects an individual's chart, but in the greater scheme of things, it's a real positive because of the trine.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that trine between Jupiter and Mars, that martial arts thing we were talking about a little bit before, bigger martial arts, used in a balanced way, Libra, for the people, Aquarius, sounds like a pretty good idea.
Right. It's also in a sextile to the moon.
Right.
Jupiter's both trining Mars and a sextile to the moon, and the sextiles are also supportive.
Yeah, so this is actually a pretty lovely configuration. We could see that this could help us to make some really important changes in our lives.
Yeah.
Large and small. Anything else you want to pick out of this before I scroll down to some of the more detailed interpretation?
I would point out that Chiron is opposite Mercury.
Yeah.
And Chiron archetypally is the wounded healer. So when Chiron ends up in aspects to other planets or points, it brings up the wound, which offers the potential for healing. And to have it opposite Mercury, which is the messenger, is like just be on the lookout for messages that either expose the wound or do some wounding or offer some healing.
Yes, that's great advice. Yeah, we've got talk, we've got messages, information coming about healing.
Yeah.
And that's going to be brought out in the open, as you said. I think that that's going to be helpful. Now, that could be healing on different levels. It doesn't have to be physical healing. Could be emotional, could be in a relationship, it could be, you know, having to do with a broad spectrum of things. It could be physical healing as well, too. So I think that that's
ancestral.
what?
It could be ancestral.
Yes, it could be ancestral. Yeah, but that's a great advice to really keep an ear open to those messages that may come to us now related to anything having to do with the wound. Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit now and take a look at a deeper interpretation here. Bubbling brews taste good. Well, it's Halloween.
Okay.
We've got that, you know, Mars, and it's kind of bubbling the pot of Pluto. You know, it's adding some fuel there to that Pluto subterranean thing. It might be making people passionate, but we can use passion positively, right? I mean,
Yeah,
bubbling brews can taste good.
definitely.
So our time frame here is 1 month after October 19th, 20th, depending on where you're on the planet, through the new moon in Aries, which is April of 2022. And our moon, again, our moon represents emotion, reflection, reception, the yin negative, passive, female, from you know, a broader perspective. And Aries represents, wait a minute, that's the Libra. It's cardinal for sure, but Aries represents new starts. It's the first sign in the zodiac. It is often impulsive, but definitely very active. Mars rules Aries. So Mars is in a very important place in one sense because it is opposite its placement for almost the entirety of 2020. So in 2020, Mars was in Aries for a long, 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 long time. 6 months. 6 months Mars was in Aries from March all the way, and then it's moved fast since then. Mars is looking along now, but it was in Aries for a really long time. And I think that some of that healing reflection that we're looking at, that we're talking about, has to do with Mars now in its opposite sign of Libra, and there being a coming out, if you will. Opposition sometimes show the things in the outer world that were interior. So whatever Mars was going through in Aries back, you know, in 2020, I think the full circle, and you talked about this too from other symbolism, we're getting kind of a full circle, I believe, coming through here. And again, we have the end in the beginning and the beginning in the end, because it is a full moon in the new sign of Aries, the new beginning sign of Aries. The Sabian symbol for Libra, because we've got the sun, of course, is in Libra, is an airplane sails high in the clear sky. And is that the one that you got? Did you pull 28 degrees Libra? Because that may be more accurate.
I pulled 27.
Okay. So what do you get from that one?
Movement. Movement and clarity, or clarity of movement. Ascension.
And Mars is essentially, you know, Mars is at just a few degrees away from that sun at 27 degrees of Libra.
Right.
So again, I feel that there's a reminiscence here, or a re-invoking of whatever we kind of went through back in 2020, that maybe we have a chance to clear up.
Yeah.
How about the 27 degrees of Aries? Through imagination, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Yeah, through imagination, a lost opportunity is regained.
This actually was the symbol of the new moon in Aries in 2018 that started off the new astrological year.
Oh, Wow,
So
that's fascinating.
it's not just that we might be coming back over things from 2020 when Mars was in Aries. We might also be coming back to things from 2018 throughout the whole year. This was the same theme from the whole year.
And that makes a lot of sense. Mars has a 2-year cycle. And so we've just started a new 2-year Mars cycle. And we know with 2020, the beginning of 2020, we started a new Jupiter Saturn cycle. So these last few years have been a new cycles beginning.
Right.
So that imagination, a lost opportunity, I like that. I like the meaning that I get from that, that, I love tradition, and Saturn represents tradition. That square with Saturn and Uranus represents our needing to, change our traditions, make some changes, have some transformation, and using imagination to regain opportunities that we might have felt were lost, both collectively and individually. That seems to really fit the theme of the last couple of years.
It does. And also, I want to point out that Mars is at 23 Libra, and that symbol is a Chanticleer's voice heralds the rising sun.
Ooh,
So it's
that's
another really positive about pleasure and joyousness that can come from new beginnings.
yeah. Yeah, that's really nice. 2020 was such a dark time, but there was a lot of kind of darkness that led up to it. And, I believe that there is a sense of hope that people are starting to feel now. And as above, so below, we're seeing this reflection in what we're reading in the interpretations of what's going on astrologically as well. That's nice. Read that one again, the Chanticleer.
Chanticleer's voice heralds the rising sun.
And a Chanticleer is a singer in a religious service. Is that true?
I don't know that you have to be a religious service.
Doesn't have to be religious service. Okay.
So.
Yeah. I think of a young boy in robes or something singing beautifully. I don't know. But yeah, I really like that. Is there anything else we want to say about this before we take a look at the conjunction to Mars?
Let's do it. Mars conjunction.
Okay. So we've got the sun again in Libra, illuminating. It's a yang positive, active male symbol. The sun is. The sun is, our internal shining energy. And in its conjunction to Mars, we've got in Libra this concept of relationship, negotiation, balance, diplomacy, and problem solving. And again, I think of martial arts when I think of Mars in Libra. Conjunct the sun, the spotlight, focusing our attention on whatever is obvious and taking appropriate action is what seems to be really highlighted, because Mars is energy, passion, movement. It's the gas pedal, not necessarily gas, that sounds wrong. It is the gas pedal on your car that you push to get things going, step on the gas, get some action going on. So having that going on, conjunct the sun in Libra says we might get some action towards some balance, diplomacy, problem solving.
At a degree that points directly to the rising sun.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah. So what else do you see in this?
Oh, get ready to move. I don't know if you're not moving yet. I mean, for me, the past 18 months have been like super withdrawn and lethargic, and I don't even care that I haven't gotten a lot done. But it definitely feels like it's time to start moving again. It's almost a weird, like last spring, normally, and when the sun moves into Aries, I start to feel the momentum of spring emergence. And something about this astrology leads me to, like, I didn't feel that last spring. But now it's almost like my internal energy feels more like that spring initiative.
Wow, I really feel that way too. It is interesting because last spring was just too there was too much trepidation. Even though we had the vaccine and stuff, things weren't opened up yet. I mean, I'm applying this to COVID, but I know there's a lot of other things that these symbologies involve. But what it makes me think of is, now there is real hope that the numbers are going down, even though there are still unvaccinated people and we still need to get vaccinations much, farther. There's countries that aren't unvaccinated. There's pockets of people that are struggling, but it seems like we're pulling out of this. I feel like things are moving in a better direction in that health way.
Yeah.
There's also a sense of kind of percolation.
Good word.
I feel like things are percolating,
Mhm.
and because we're heading into what would be a holiday season. I'm hoping that it makes the holidays more bright and cheerful, because last year was kind of depressing, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
This percolation might help people to feel a little bit more a part of things.
Yeah. Well, it's not Mars and Aries. It's not like get out the gate running, right? So the percolator is a good analogy in the sense that, like, okay, so finally things are starting to bubble. To go back to our bubbles from last new moon, we're still in the bubbling month, right? The soap bubbles, the blowing bubbles, the percolator is starting to bubble, but it's not finished. The coffee's not ready,
Right.
but at least it's starting to boil.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what's giving us a sense of momentum, I believe.
Yeah.
Now we've got, again, the Mars square Pluto, which we talked about quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
This may be a meaning subconscious, passive aggressive action. There's one thought. Deeply researched strategy that turns a corner.
Nice.
I mean, there are kind of different ways you can take a look at this, the deep transformational energy of Pluto in this configuration with that energy of Mars percolating up there in Libra. This could be something that does, as we've talked about before, really help us to turn a corner. Hopefully it won't lead to the passive aggressive action that's subconscious. That's a little harder to deal with.
Yeah, no, I don't want to go there. I almost want to, for myself, and make this suggestion for other people, that we literally come out of the dark of night, Pluto, and sing to the sunrise.
Yeah,
There's a
that
lot
fits
to be
that
said.
chanticleer. Yeah,
Yeah, be the chanticleer. Be the chanticleer.
be the chanticleer. Use that Mars energy in this configuration in a positive way to herald the rising sun.
Heck yes.
I love that.
There's a lot to be said for embodied action.
That's right. And this is a good time, even though it's a time of completions, to set intentions. I know we normally set intentions on new moons, but this is actually a good time to think about the culminations and the new beginnings we want, because it is in Aries.
Yeah.
And we can feel that percolator bubbling,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What do I want with my coffee? A little cream and some sugar, and plan this out a little bit, and maybe anticipate in a positive way the changes that are coming.
Yes.
And the positive part, again, really comes down to that trine. Another part of it is the Mars trine Jupiter, and taking action can bring success.
Mm-hmm.
So we can get some real, we have some energy here to make some big changes, some big and overall likely very positive changes, because Jupiter is the big benevolent
Right.
in the room. So I think this is pretty powerful, what we see here. And I think we're going to be feeling this for quite some time, you know, because these changes are going to be going on until through the spring. That we'll feel the reflections coming back at us for several months regarding this moon.
Yeah.
And what do we call this moon? It's not the harvest moon. It's not the hunter moon. Do you remember? Can't remember what the name of the moon was. Darn. If anybody knows what the moon is, let us know in the comments because I can't remember.
Would this be the traditional Samhain moon, or is Samhain on a new moon?
This might be the traditional Samhain moon. This is the full moon in October. We're not going to get another one.
No.
Not this year. This is the full
I
moon.
don't know that the next full moon is closer to the 31st, though, or not. I haven't looked it up.
I don't think so. I think we're right mid because it's the 20th.
I'm glad I thought of that. So this might be like a thin veil time.
I think you're right. This is a thin veil time, especially with the Pluto configuration pointing at our, you know, the depths and ancestral things,
Yeah.
transformational things. I think that this is a thin veil time.
Yeah.
Probably for the next several, few weeks as we move through the end of the month.
Probably.
Yeah. A good time to think about
some of those signs and symbols.
Yeah.
Synchronicities.
Do we have another symbol you wanted to take a look at?
Let me see if anything. Saturn is still at the masked figure in a mystery play. Chiron is at a crystal gazer.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah. Mercury is at a canoe approaching safety through dangerous waters.
That feels right. Mercury being opposite right now, Chiron.
Right.
Read that one again for Mercury.
A canoe approaching safety through dangerous waters.
Yeah. I like that one a lot too. That fits with the whole symbology, especially as it has to do with talking about the healing and messages about how we might heal or master our health issues or planetary health issues, whether they're personal or large.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Pluto is still at a woman entering a convent. Jupiter is still at a rug placed on the floor for children to play on.
So we seem to be in a fairly safe place as we make a transformation.
Yeah.
Right now, seems like a pause.
Yeah.
And maybe a pause, a time when the veil is a little thinner to think about history, our personal history, our ancestral history, our past, and what we want for our future. I think it's a good time for lighting candles.
And singing to them.
Yes, and sing that energy to the sun.
It's a really good time to sing.
Yep, get out there and sing to the sun, guys. Please give us your comments and let us know what you think. If this astrology video, if there's anything else you'd like us to talk about when we do our full and new moon videos, we'd like to hear your feedback. Thanks, Kat.
Thanks, Micki.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye, guys.